All right. So again, welcome. I'm going to monitor the participants as they come in, and I will monitor the chat. Please, if you have a question, put it in the chat box, and Lisa will answer all the questions throughout the presentation, but at the very end as well. So if you are waiting, guess what? She probably isn't going to get to it, but just in case it's not addressed, we will cover it at the end. So please feel free to put that in the chat, and then I can see it and I will relay it to her. Lisa is going to share her slides and review some of the information. And I guess what, I have polls, so I hope you all are awake because you got to answer the polls. It'll be interactive, it'll be fun, and maybe you'll even get a tidbit or two that's going to help you with employee retention. You are on the first woohoo business guest speaker presentation. I plan to do these around once a month to let you know. I hope that you can join us next time as well. And that link to register will be in your thank you email that's coming up. So we're talking about different parts of business and how to retain and recruit employees and the benefits and everything else that we're all struggling with as employers. Okay, so wow, we already have 2 chats and I didn't even finish talking and I'm trying to talk. Hello. Please share your YouTube channel for us to gain the. I will. I absolutely will. It's in my signature line if you have not emailed me earlier, and I will put it in the chat box as well. So, all right, let me introduce to you our speaker. A little bit about Lisa. All right, Lisa is a human resources consultant, an HR business partner who has worked in the financial services industry for most of her career. Lisa has worked in regional and specialist roles for global organizations. As a project manager, she has developed and led initiatives on employee retention and engagement, performance management, employee onboarding, wellness, all the issues that we seem to have as employers, right? Lisa is passionate about improving the employee work experience. Guess what? I think you're going to get that vibe too as she goes through her presentation. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you so much. And you are muted.
Okay, you muted everybody. I forgot to unmute myself. Hi, everybody. Welcome, and thanks so much for joining us for this power hour on employee retention strategy. So, Christine, I do need to reshare my screen again, correct?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Let me do that real quick and get to the view that I want to be at. Slideshow view. Yes. Cool. All right. Thanks for the great introduction, Christine. We've got a lot of stuff to cover today, folks, so I hope this is a topic of interest for you. I've got a lot of high-level information, tools, resources for you. So when I was looking this stuff over, I'm like, oh my God, I could do a whole hour on this tool and that tool. So it's not going to be an extremely deep dive, but it's going to give you a sense of all the tools that are out there that would help your firm build an effective employee retention program. Okay. And if you did join today because you think you have a high turnover problem, then I assume that you are concerned because it's affecting your business growth and productivity, right? Turnover also affects the level of service that your firm can offer. And if turnover is really bad, then it's likely affecting your company reputation with your customers and even with prospective candidates who are hearing rumors about what it's like to work at your firm. And that can be very dangerous, especially in today's environment. Okay. Others on this call may feel like, oh, you know, my turnover is pretty manageable, and I'm really just interested to see if I can pick up a few new ideas. So that's good. No matter what the reasons are for you being on the call, I believe that all of you are going to learn something new today that you can implement. And in doing so, it's going to have a knock-on effect on improving the employee engagement at your firm. So this is a 2-for-1 deal today, folks. Reduce turnover and increase employee engagement. How does that sound? I'd like to start, though, by getting a sense of all these wonderful people on the call, Christine, and we're going to launch our first poll. You're going to see some choices for titles, and I'd like you to select the choice that best reflects your role in the company.
What
Ready,
is
set,
your
go.
position in the company? Owner, president, senior leader, chief financial officer, human resources, including recruiters and trainers and all the different parts of human resources, finance staff, or other.
Okay. All right.
Give you a few more.
Looks like,
Wow.
yes, looks like we're still going up and down a little bit. Okay. Well, that certainly looks like a nice mix of people. I would be really interested. I see we have about 17% of the attendees have listed themselves as other. So if those other people could just write in the chat box what your role in the company is for us, whether it's your title or what you do there, could you just take a moment to chat with us and tell us, what do you do, other people? What are we seeing, Christine?
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet? Okay.
Nothing
Well,
yet.
I'm really
Oh,
I'm
all
really
right. Agency recruiter. I'm the manager
okay.
for Habitat. So CEO, president, manager, Habitat.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. It looks like
Anyone else?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Just was curious about that.
Mhm.
Okay. Looks like we got a lot of HR people on the call as well, and I always love to talk to HR people since I'm one and share what we know with each other. It's a great way to continue our education learning from others. So terrific. Thank you for that. You know, I imagine, and Christine alluded to this, that a lot of you are struggling to find people to hire right at this time. And while this presentation isn't going to be focused on recruiting strategies, I want to tell you that I'm going to provide a couple of different ideas for your recruitment process that will help you to get more candidates that are a better fit for your firm. But the focus of today really will be how to keep your best employees for longer. Okay, so let's take a look at our agenda. Let me get this poll out of my way. All right. Okay. Sorry. There we go. There we go. There's our agenda. Okay. Dear boss, I quit. How many times has that happened where you don't even know why somebody is quit? Oh, that's a nightmare. Okay. Let's see. To get through the amount of material that I have for you today, as well as a 15-minute Q&A, I am going to ask, as Christine said, please put your questions in the chat box and I will address them all at the end. Even if I have to stay on past 1 o'clock, it's no problem. But there are so many tools in this presentation that I don't want to, get caught up in a bunch of questions during the presentation, okay? So we will start off by saying that if you thought that there was a silver bullet, one-stop solution for turnover, there is not, okay? There are many reasons why employees say they leave, and each firm has their own culture and benefits, challenges, rewards. But these impact employees in different ways, both positively and negatively. The strategies and tools I'm going to show you today are a multi-pronged approach to reducing turnover, okay? Realizing this full strategy is something that maybe some of the larger firms on the on the presentation today can do in the year ahead. And if you can, and you do it really well, you will see reductions in turnover of up to 20 to 50%. But I know we also have mid-sized and smaller firms on the call, and they may not have all the resources they need to implement all of these effective ideas over the next year. Please don't be intimidated or be put off by that. There are tools here that you can implement in the short term, okay? So you'll pick something out and you'll roll it out, and then you'll, over the coming months and the coming year, roll out some more as you can with the resources that you have. And then you too will see turnover percentages and costs decline and reduce. Promise you, okay? So the first topic on our agenda today is, why do employees leave? If you will indulge me, again in the chat box, let me know with a yes or a no. Does your firm conduct an exit survey or some kind of exit interview conversation when an employee resigns from your firm?
Yes, 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 yes. Ooh, lots of yeses.
Any no's?
One no. Yes, whenever possible.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent.
I got lots of yeses. That's awesome, guys. Yay.
That is good.
That is really
excellent
good.
because tool number one is to conduct an exit interview. So I'm so glad to see this is happening. But maybe you have some information that will help you to tweak that a little bit, perhaps. Okay. So if you're doing these surveys, you're probably familiar with these kinds of reasons that people give for why they left. But are they actually really the reasons why people quit? Okay. Like, for instance, if you have better opportunity as one of your selections, I'd like to know, what does that even mean, better opportunity? I mean, it could mean anything, right? It can mean the place is down the street from where I live, or it can mean they're paying me 50 cents more an hour, so it's a better opportunity. It's really not a very specific answer. So it's one of those answers that I like to leave out of my exit survey. Even during a pandemic or a recession, the best and talented employees can always leave our organizations. They can always find another job because they're really good. And I'm going to challenge you about these reasons that they give, because they're generally the palatable and acceptable reasons that we're okay with hearing generally, right? People don't want to burn their bridges. They want to leave on good terms. They want to get a good reference out of you. And so very few people are really willing to tell you the whole truth, that the reason why they left was because of their manager, okay? You should know that that relationship with a supervisor or manager has the most impact on whether an employee will stay or leave an organization. That crucial connection tells employees when their manager really cares about them, right? Cares about their career or developing their skills, or is really honest with them, or communicates frequently enough with them, okay? So tool one, conduct exit interviews, but I beg you, please don't turn them into a 25 or 50 question survey monkey survey monster thing. Your job is to get to the real reason why people left. Why did you decide to leave us? Okay. And it really needs to be done by a skilled and trusted interviewer who knows how to ask probing questions to get really meaningful feedback. Okay. In a skilled interview, we're going to really seek to discover, why did this person even start to look in the first place? I think there's usually a trigger or two that gets people to start thinking, I don't want to be here anymore, and maybe I'm going to start looking around. So we want to find out, what happened, and what could we do to maybe cause them to rethink that and to stay. Okay. So for years as an HR business partner, I would run reports each month showing the turnover percentages for my management. And I assume that a lot of you are doing the same thing. but I'd like to do another poll to see if you know what your annual turnover percentage was for 2020. Christine, can you launch our poll for us? So if you don't know your actual turnover percentage for 2020, just take your best guess, okay? Just a rough estimate, how many people you lost over how many people you generally had in the firm. Like do, 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 do. Okay. Wow.
Entering a poll doesn't
So what
require
I'm
anything but pressing a button, guys. So even if you have your mouth full because you're eating your lunch, you can still answer the poll.
Yeah, we get a lot more people on the call than that, right? Again, just take your best estimate. Nobody's going to call your employer and tell them you guessed
No,
wrong.
not at
I
all. Not
promise.
at all.
All right. Okay. So we're seeing, some high numbers for some people. Love to know what the people with the 0 to 5% are doing in their firms. That'll be an interesting question at the end.
It sounds like maybe they could
Okay.
teach us all a thing or two, huh?
Indeed. That's really impressive. Okay. Okay. So we can close that poll. Thank you so much, Christine.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you, if your business does have 16% overall turnover, is that a good thing for you, for your firm? Or is it bad? Do you see it as a terrible thing? Or do you merely see it as an acceptable thing? Yep, that's generally what our turnover runs at. Yep, we accept it. And if you knew that your industry average for businesses in your industry was 20% turnover, then how do you feel about your 16% now? Now, do you feel like you're better than average? Is that good? The reason why I'm asking you this is because I really want to challenge you to think differently about your turnover. I wonder how many of you actually know what the 16% turnover is costing your business. And do you know what kind of employees you're generally losing? That's a really important question. Okay. So let me close this. Hold on just a sec. Close out that poll for me. Okay. On the internet, you can find a lot of different cost calculators. And the one that I like best, I've put here on a slide for you as a hyperlink, and you'll get that when Christine sends out the slides. It's a really robust calculator, but it doesn't really matter if you use this one or if you make one up yourself. What's important is to get a dollar cost on your firm's turnover so that you are speaking the language of business. And the language of business is dollars, not percentages. You want to get your CEO's attention, you tell him your turnover is costing you $100,000 a year. That should get some attention, as opposed to maybe that equates to 10% of turnover. I don't know. Could be more. Depends on what kind of employees you have at your firm. I worked on a consulting assignment at a firm a couple of years ago where we wanted to put a cost on the turnover of a position that was the biggest role in the company from the employee base size. So we worked with the CFO of the organization, and we put together a team of some HR folks, some recruiters, people who really understood the job that we were looking at, which was the most entry-level job in the company. Our analysis of turnover information showed us that 1,000 of these entry-level employees were leaving globally the year before. And the CFO was able to provide us with some compensation information, the cost of benefits, the cost of the training of these people, and the cost of lost productivity when they were out before we hired somebody new. So conservatively, we calculated a cost for that turnover at 10 million US dollars worldwide. Can you imagine? $10 million. If you could split that turnover in half or even by 20%, we're talking about 20 million, 50 million, I'm sorry, 2 million, $5 million that could be used by the company in so many other different ways, right? Research and development, better training for our new hires, more employees, better bonuses for people, right? So I think that would be really an impactful conversation to have with your CEO or business owner. But you have to include your CFO or a chief finance person in this calculation team that you're going to put together. Because when a CFO puts their stamp of approval on the formula that you're going to use, that is going to be seen as a credible figure formula to use going forward. And nobody, not even the president, is going to question it anymore. And that means that year over year, you're going to be able to put a cost on your turnover and be able to track it and see if your retention program and the tools that you're using are actually working for you. Okay.
That sounds like a lot of information, a lot of work there.
It could be, but actually when we did it at the firm that I did it at, we did it in a very spitball way. Like at first, everybody wanted to kind of go delve into the data, right? The CFO wanted to go back and look at spreadsheets and we were like, no. We're just going to take our best estimates on these figures, right? And we did it in probably about a half an hour. Take a look tomorrow or later today at this cost calculator and see what it's asking for. If it's too robust for you, don't use it. Pull some of the stuff out of it that makes sense to you and your finance person and utilize that. I've done that as well at other firms. Yep. And you know what? I think $10 million was a conservative figure at that firm. I think it actually cost more than that, but it doesn't matter. It was a compelling figure anyway. And as I said, we could track against it and we could see if we were saving the next year or if our turnover had cost us more. And that really starts getting people into the mindset of we've got to do something about this and we've got to use some of these tools. Okay.
Are you able to share that link for the calculator? Is that free turnover cost calculator?
It is a hyperlink in here, Christine. So when you share the slides, people can see it. We would only be able to see the first page of it without having information to put in it, unfortunately.
Okay, so what I'll do is when I send a thank you to everyone, I will include these slides with those hyperlinks so that you can just click that link and get the information that you need. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So moving on to our next
Sorry
slide.
to interrupt.
No. It's good. It's good. Okay. So I don't know how many of you have thought to yourself in the firm or if your business owner is like designated someone who is accountable for retention in your firm. Okay. Maybe they've actually said, HR, this is your job. You've got to fix this. Or maybe somebody in the business has taken ownership for it. I don't know. Okay. Sorry, just lost my place there. Okay. But what I've seen in my experience is that businesses do typically punt this over to HR to help fix retention issues. And as an HR professional, like many of you on the call, over the years, I've seen us do a lot of different things, initiatives that we've tried to launch to solve the retention and turnover problems. And typical things that I've done or seen done are things like instituting an employee appreciation day or some kind of a recognition program, town hall meetings for more communication, surveys, newsletters, employee events of some kind, even parties, right? Pizza Friday, bagel breakfast. I mean, we're getting desperate here, but we've done it all to try to improve employee retention. And I'm not really making fun of those things. I've myself enjoyed a free lunch at work many times, love a good bagel when I don't have to pay for it. But the fact is that these kinds of initiatives actually have very little to no impact on your turnover rates. And at best, employees maybe find them somewhat engaging, okay? So really, your retention efforts have to be driven down by the top of the organization, by your owners and your executives, and implemented down the supervisory chain to frontline supervisors. Employees report to supervisors, right? They don't report to us in HR. And supervisors are the #1 reasons why employees decide to stay or to leave. So it makes sense. Supervisors of all levels should be held accountable for turnover. But how can we do it? So just as managers have goals around quality and safety and service, we also need to have goals around retention. And those retention goals must be clear and well communicated, and they must be reasonable and attainable as well, okay? So this is tool number 3. And if you want to see a turnover reduction by 10% annually and really take it seriously, then it really has to be built into your performance management process as well, okay? Monthly reporting of turnover stats and costs should also be shared with supervisors so that they can see their own numbers and have skin in this game, okay? Exit interview information should be reviewed, and discussions with managers have to happen when they lose people. How did this happen? How did we lose Sally? She was really valuable to the firm. Did you see this coming, right? So really understanding our turnover is going to help us to make better hiring decisions. And it's going to help us to make sure that the right people are in manager positions because of that important, crucial connection, right? You may find that you need to provide more or better training for your managers so that they can make those better connections with their staff. Or you might need to take somebody out of a management position, which is a courageous thing to do, but really important when that manager is kind of poison as a manager and people are leaving the firm because of that manager.
Lisa, I hate to interrupt, but I have to ask, we use the chat box and everyone said, except for one person, said, yes, we do exit surveys. We do find out why people are leaving, so that, I don't know, is that just part of your company policy, or do you actually share those results with your supervisors and your managers and your CFO and CEO and whatever it happens to be, that upper level? I would love to know in that chat box. Do you share it, or do you just kind of like take that information and file it away because that's part of your job? What do you do with that information? I'm sorry,
Good
Lisa,
question.
you can keep on going, but I'm curious.
No, let's see what people have to say, definitely.
Yeah. Share with direct supervisor and CEO, share. It's part of the company policy, but we do a deep dive into that information. We share the information with those that can make a decision.
I do know that.
Change. Yeah.
Yeah. I do know that a lot of surveys are chock-a-block full of information, and, you know, don't often ask for the sort of one sole really important factor why people left. They might say, well, give us the top 3, and then you don't really know, well, which was the really most important. I mean, you know, a lot of managers like to easily say, oh, well, you know, they left, they needed more money. It had nothing else to do with anything else. It was all about the money. And, you know, I know that money's important to people, but when people are walking across the street for 25 cents more an hour, it ain't about the money, folks. Something else is going on. So we really, as I said, most HR folks are really skilled at getting to the real issue, as long as employees trust HR, right? And know that they will hold their confidences and not repeat everything that they said about their manager and how horrible he or she was. So we do have to be careful. But when we do see that a certain manager keeps getting those poor results, that poor feedback, we need to take action, right? Can't leave these people in these jobs forever because they're poison for our firm. Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about a very important soft skill. Okay. If you're a business owner here today or a senior leader, I'd like you to ask yourself, just in your own head, do you think your employees generally trust you? With the things that you say and the actions that they see, are you trustworthy? Are your executives and the managers a trustworthy group as well? Are they really seen as a trustworthy group that you can go to and share sensitive and confidential information with? Right? Because trust is an essential ingredient for retention. And you can break trust in an instant, and it can take forever to build that trust back up, and sometimes not even at all. So tool number 4 is to develop and provide trust training for your supervisors, right up to the top of the organization, to the president or the owner. Okay. Now, there are 5 really important components to building this trusting culture, a culture where supervisors are seen as authentic and trustworthy. Okay. Trust is built over time through communication, right? By supervisors who share information, listen to employee ideas and feedback and take it really seriously and value it and try to action it, which would say to an employee, hey, you're important to the success of this company. I acknowledge your good ideas, right? Trust is built through competence by supervisors who share their knowledge so others can learn and grow. By supervisors who make really good and fair decisions in a timely manner, right? Who allow employees to learn and do their jobs with some flexibility and freedom instead of being micromanaged, which all of us hate. Trust is built through consistency as well, right? By managers who generally follow up and do what they say they were going to do, meeting their promised commitments, and providing clear direction to their team that makes sense. Trust is a supervisor with character, someone who tells the truth or is at least honest when they can't share information, okay? Able to keep sensitive and confidential information and shares credit with the team. That's character. And finally, trust is courage. And that's a supervisor who's going to advocate for their staff, standing up for principles and beliefs. Assertive, able to push back, diplomatically, of course, but provide support in the face of resistance. So, this kind of training needs to be developed. It could be an hour training, but every supervisor in the organization, including the top honcho or hancha, needs to get this training.
So basically what we're
Tool
looking
number
at
5
is anything that you as an employee of that business look for in trust, your employees that are below you are also looking for trust.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay. So what is a stay interview? I know a lot of you, at least the HR, probably familiar with this kind of a conversation that happens between 5 questions, right? I mean, just let's take a moment to look at these questions and answer them for ourselves, no matter what our position in the firm. When you're traveling to work today, right? Christine, what were you looking forward to? And Sam, what are you learning at your firm? Coffee. Are you folks even still learning on your jobs? Okay. And why do you want to stay there? You've been there 5 years. Are you going to stay longer? Why? What's so good about that place that makes you want to stay? And when was the last time that you thought about leaving the company or your team? Did something happen? What prompted that feeling? Maybe you didn't go at that time, but it's still niggling back there, right? And what can I, as your supervisor, do to make your experience at work better for you? Those are some interesting questions. And please, nobody send these questions out right now to your managers and say, start asking them. No, 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 no. There really needs to be training on how to ask these questions. Okay. When done well, this kind of a dialogue is really going to cement that trust bond and relationship between an employee and their supervisor. Now, it's recommended that we do a stay interview at least once a year, but I think as people get really good at it and comfortable with the process, they're going to ask these questions in maybe slightly different ways all through the year, just to make sure that the people on their team are still happy and still interested in staying. Okay. And I do want to highlight that it should be a separate kind of a process, the stay interview. For instance, do not roll this up into your performance review process, folks. That is a totally separate process. The point of this meeting is to understand, why do your employees stay with you and what might possibly induce them to leave your firm, okay? Not meant in any way to get into negative or positive performance feedback, right? And given the nature of these questions, as we were just thinking about them, right? I'll bet you were saying to yourself, now I know why trust training of the supervisors is so important. I'm not going to answer these questions honestly if I don't trust you, supervisor, right? I mean, they need to know, supervisors, how to probe and dig deeper. If I don't know if I can trust you so much, I'm probably going to give you a really easy answer like, oh, yeah, you know, I like my job. Yeah, everything's okay here. But you've really got to get past that fluffy answer and get into some more specifics, and good listening skills and authenticity can get you there. And if you look at question number 5, you know, that's the kind of question that could get you some targeted, maybe even slightly critical feedback, you know, and that might be a little hard to hear, manager or supervisor. And it might make you feel a little defensive, like you need to justify why you performed or acted that way. And that's not what we want in a stay interview. We don't want defensive people. That shuts down the honesty and the meaningful feedback that you want to get. So a good training program rolling this out correctly is what's needed. And it really needs to start at the very top of your organization with the owner, the president, the CEO. They need to know how to start off this process in the firm with their direct reports. And when all their direct reports are done, then those direct reports filter the stay interview process down to their direct reports until it gets to the very bottom frontline supervisor in the organization, doing it with the very bottom entry level employees in that organization, so that everybody's had a stay interview.
So
Okay?
how do we start? How do we
Now, I do
start
wanna
this process, Lisa? You've given us a lot of really good information. Do your slides include on how to get started?
Well, a stay interview process is one that books have been written about, and I'm going to actually provide you 2 books at the end of the presentation that will help you to roll out the stay interview process. I could probably give a 2-hour program just on how to do it. So, but before you even do it, you've got to.
Tools. You mentioned forecasting tools in the beginning, so I wasn't sure if that was connected with everything else that you've discussed, or how can we take action?
Yeah, absolutely. You're almost at the next slide, Christine.
Oh, sorry.
So hang on just a minute. Okay.
I want you to get it all in. There's so much really good content here.
I know. All of the information that is going to come out of that stay interview, right, is going to feed into the forecasting tool. So just hang on a second, because I want to emphasize that although I said you wanted to do a stay interview once a year, You're also, if you're a firm that has early turnover, like early days turnover, maybe in the first 3 months you're losing people already, then you're going to want to build your stay interview process into your onboarding or probation period. I mean, if I was losing people at 3-month mark, then I'm going to implement that stay interview at like the 1.5-month mark, because that's when people are already starting to think, right? This job's not for me, or I don't know if I like it here, or maybe I'm going to think about that I
Great
just heard
tip.
about,
Great tip.
right? Get in there, find out what's going on so that you can make some corrections. You might think a stay interview where people tell you that they're deliriously happy is a great stay interview. And I hope you do get 1 or 2 of those. That'll be great. But success is really when someone's very honest with you and says, I don't feel like I'm learning anymore. Okay. Or I'm not sure this environment is really right for me. Or I think I need more training because it looks like everybody else is catching on, but I'm feeling really stupid and unsuccessful. Okay. That's a good stay interview, because that's the kind of feedback where a manager and the supervisor can put their head together and come up with some kind of resolution to get people back on track and feeling good about being there. Okay. So you might find out your team isn't doing a very good job at helping new hires learn their jobs and feel comfortable and part of the team. And that's going to be a takeaway for you, supervisor, to correct. Okay. But supervisors really need to do this in a reasonable time period. I'm talking like a week or 2 to come back to people to tell them what they can do as a supervisor or cannot do. Sometimes you're not going to be able to do something about it. But it's a two-way street, folks, too. The employee may also need to do things, may need to try harder, may need to work with someone and cross-train, and within a reasonable period, improve their performance or their outlook on things. So, I'm not pushing this all on supervisors. Okay, so forecasting tool. Okay, like we said, the stay interview is going to give some really great insight into the risk of losing an employee, because the notes that you're taking become part of this forecasting tool. And this is tool number 6, and a sample of this was sent to you by Christine this morning. So you might want to take that out and take a look at it. This helps managers assess whether the employee is, generally satisfied with their role and likely to stay for more than a year. And if so, then they get a green code on the forecasting tool sheet. But, maybe somebody is at some risk of leaving within the next 6 to 12 months, and you sort of have an understanding of the reason why. So you're going to code that person a yellow. And then there are other people who are at high risk of leaving, maybe because they're really performing very poorly and you're going to have to fire them, or just because it just doesn't seem to be working out for some other reason. So we're going to code those folks as a red. And when we think we're at risk of losing someone and we do understand the reasons why, then supervisors can go and discuss this with their managers or the owner or someone in HR, because sometimes you need to brainstorm with somebody else about the solution, or you might need approval to do something from the owner, or you want to make sure it's generally within your HR policy guidelines to make these kinds of actions, right? So, what we're really coming out of this whole process with is a customized solution, right? Not a one-size-fits-all solution. People are different, and we need to understand their individual needs. So sometimes it's true, we might not be able to meet those needs, and we'll have to let them leave if that's what they want to do. Okay, that's okay. Other times we're going to realize through this process that this wasn't one of our best hires, right? We kind of saw the warning signs during the recruitment process. We chose to ignore them. We just wanted to get a warm body in the door. And we got a warm body, but one that's not working out or is dissatisfied, and we're going to lose them at like the 1.5-month mark, right? And we really want to avoid those kinds of things. Those are mistakes, bad hires. But the good news is that there are often going to be solutions that we can action, and we can save employees and get them to stay with us. for a longer period of time. Okay. So at the beginning of the presentation, I promised you that I would give you some recruiting tools, and this is tool number 7. It's called a realistic job preview, and you got a sample from Christine this morning on it. It's a 3-pager. I'll give you lots of information. It's a tool you can use during the hiring process to communicate what the job really entails, okay? I'll call it an RJP. It presents the job's positive, rewarding aspects, definitely want to highlight those, as well as some of the challenges and potential negatives of a job. I mean, this is in every job, right? But I bet some of you are sitting there squirming a little bit going, oh my God, I can't tell people what this job is really like. Come on, Lisa. But I want you to think about some of the most challenging jobs we know about, right? Things like nurses, garbage men, oil rig workers, even home health care providers, right? These are jobs that are dirty, smelly, strenuous, even heartbreaking sometimes. And yet there are people who do these jobs that thrive in doing them, and they find them very rewarding, okay? So as you think about creating an RJP for your business, you're going to want to talk to those people and find out, what do they see as the positives? What are the negatives in the job? How do they deal with those things? This is what's going to make your RJP really compelling, showing a typical day, what it's really like, really great positive, rewarding aspects of it, and the challenges and the negatives in a clear and honest fashion, okay? And you could do this with a video, even, a DIY video in the firm. You don't need to go out and hire a fancy consultant to do this well. It could be a tour to observe people in the plant or in the environment doing the job, which really shows what it's like, right? Or it could be some kind of a job simulation that you could get the candidate to do to really feel what it's like to do this job. It could include including an incumbent who does this job in the hiring process and letting people talk to that person. That could be very compelling. So there's a lot of different ways to provide a realistic job preview. And I have provided you a hyperlink again in this slide to see some ideas that other people have done that are really fun, interesting, and I think will be helpful for you to develop for your business if you want to. And remember, a tool like this can help you attract better fit candidates and weed out those that are likely to leave early. Okay, you really do want to do that. Don't bring people in the door that are going to leave, and then you got to go through the whole hiring process again, and all the time and money and energy that takes. Okay, we're on our last tool, which is a review of policies and benefits that you have in place at the firm. And to question yourself, do these things that we have in place really drive retention? Okay. And here are some ideas that will help you to maintain your market competitiveness, which you all want to do, and offer things to employees that make it really hard for them to leave your firm. Okay. I'm going to cherry pick through this just in the interest of time. We talked about the RJPs just a moment ago in the recruiting process to attract candidates that were more likely to stay. But I ask you, do you all have employee referral programs? And are they working for you, right? You might have one, but maybe you only get a very little amount of people through that program. I mean, these can be really fabulous ways to get candidates when you pay people money or give them some kind of an incentive that is really meaningful to them. Right? I mean, I worked at a firm, the financial services firm. It did have deep pockets, yes. They gave everybody who referred a candidate of a managerial level and above $5,000 if they were hired. I mean, that was motivating money, my friends. Very motivating. And we had a lot of referrals of a lot of good people. We didn't hire them all, but we had a really nice pipeline because of such a generous program. It was motivating money for sure, but your firm might not be able to afford something like that. But, ask yourself, what could we do? What could we afford? What incentive could we do? Maybe it's a raffle that happens 4 times a year that raffles off, I don't know, a really cool bike, electric bike, or some really cool technology that everybody wants. I mean, these are ways to draw people in and start to get them to bring in their friends who are hard workers or colleagues that they worked with at other jobs that they know are good people, right? So that'll
You
get
have a
your
lot of
pipeline boosted
great
up for sure.
ideas there, Lisa. You mentioned a lot of wonderful things that we should take a look at. And as I recommend to job seekers, if it's not working and you already have it, then maybe it's time to reinvent it or change it up. Because if you keep doing the same thing, expecting different results, that's the definition of insanity. So employee referral programs, they might be an awesome thing, but it is not working for you. Maybe changing the amount, maybe changing the length of time before they receive that money, maybe changing the parameters. You can still use it, but change it a tiny bit and tweak it and see if that is something that will work for you and your company and your situation. So you might have some of these things that Lisa mentioned, and maybe you just need to kind of tweak it.
Absolutely. Just like keep an open mind, get a group together that can think a little more creatively, open that box up in your head. And, even though people said, oh, we can't give flex hours. Well, the pandemic has taught us a lot about people working from home 5 days a week. So now we know that can be done. What other things can be done around scheduling? And I can't highlight enough how important career development is to people, no matter what role they're in. People want to learn things. So that's what engages them in your business. So there's some great ideas here as well. And I think that if you do these things, as I said, they're going to improve your employee engagement. If you have some kind of an engagement survey and you've rolled these things out, I think you're going to see an improvement in scores for sure. Okay. So, if you're a firm that has a lot of resources and is big and can fully or partly roll this out, then I'm going to recommend that you get some of these books that I'm recommending. These are excellent resources, chock full of all the things I've told you about, plus more things. So totally worth the money. Richard Finnegan is the retention expert that I learned from. Here is his website. Again, the calculators on his website, plus presentations and blogs and material that you can steal for your firm. Excellent stuff. If you have deep pockets and you want to hire a Dick Finnegan, he can come in and talk to your executive team and get them on board to roll out the full program. He's excellent at that. If you're a smaller firm with less deep pockets and you're looking for an extra pair of HR hands to help you roll out some of these kinds of programs, I'm an HR consultant and I can do that too. Okay.
Awesome.
So to bring it to a close, I know that was an awful lot of information, folks, but here are my contact details. I have a website too that shows some samples of my work. Feel free to go and take a look. I know there are questions.
There is a question. I've been holding it.
Oh, good. Okay, hit me.
All right, so we talked about stay interviews and then implementing some forecasting tools, and the rest of the executive team and I are looking to do a task force to address our turnover. Interested in how to roll it out? Is the executive the right people to perform stay interviews or somebody else? Give me a really quick answer. What do you think, Lisa?
Yeah. The really quick answer is you're going to roll out that training for your executive and every other manager, supervisor in the organization. Everybody in that role needs to learn how to conduct the stay interview and do it, right? It can't just be the bottom of your organization.
Who's responsible for doing that stay interview? When everyone is trained on how to do it, whose lap does it fall into?
Every single manager in the organization. And the process will start with the CEO doing it first, getting a direct report in his office and asking those 5 questions and writing down the answers and having a good, meaningful conversation to figure out, oh my God, is Executive Christine going to stay with me this year? Or is she giving me signs that she's bored or tired of waiting for me to retire or whatever?
Are you gonna put a big
right?
red dot
So,
next
yeah.
to me? I don't know. Maybe a yellow.
Sorry, you're my guinea pig.
Are there
So I
any
want to
other
make sure
questions?
that's clear. No,
I want to be
I just want to
respectful
make
of your
sure,
time. I know
Christine.
that Lisa has donated her time to
Yeah.
talk to you, and I also know that you guys have to go. You have things to do and people to see and places and all that good stuff. You know, it is Thursday, but we will stay for as long as there are still questions. So does anyone else have any other questions that Lisa can answer for you regarding this topic of employee retention? People are signing off.
Okay. Gotta go when you gotta go.
Absolutely. Please keep in mind, employee retention does not seem like a big deal. And it doesn't seem like it's something to focus on when we don't have enough staff to do our day-to-day operations. But just like a food business on Yelp, you go to Google to figure out what the reviews are. You look at what your neighbors think of a company, or whether you should spend time there eating, or the food's good, or they're doing the exact same thing for your business, no matter what industry it is. Employee retention is part of that. You want to have people want to work for you and just come to you, as opposed to sourcing and trying to get the masses to apply to your jobs. This is one way that's going to help you.
Absolutely.
Fantastic material.
Get ahead of that.
Thank you. It's my biggest problem.
very
I
welcome.
know. I wish I could fix that. Oh my gosh. I wish I had like lots of different candidates in my back pockets to give to you guys.
Absolutely. Well, it was a pleasure talking today. And as I said, anybody wants to reach out through email or set up a phone call, I am happy to talk further about some of these ideas.
Great. Very good.
Cool. Very
Well, thank
good.
you so much for coming today. And again, it's our first in a session. So once a month, we're going to have a guest speaker that will talk about different things relating to your business, operating your business, and keeping your employees happy. So look out for our next speaker, Darius Booker, which will be presenting in June. And I'll tell you all about it in our email. All right. Have a great day and good luck to everyone. And we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a good one.
Bye.
Thank you.